I'm Trish.
And I'm Brandi.
And you're listening to episode 21 of
Connected Conversations. This is your space for real talk about international education, where we unpack the things that shape teaching and learning abroad, even when they're uncomfortable to talk about.
You've joined us for episode 3 in a 5-part series where we've done a deep dive into behavioral trends in international schools. In the first episode of this series, we explored why behavior abroad is often misdiagnosed.
And in the second, we unpacked behavior policies, what exists, what's missing, and why systems matter more than slogans.
And today, we're talking about the piece that sits quietly and sometimes not so quietly underneath everything we've discussed so far. The parents.
Yes.
Their expectations, their cultural context, and their influence.
Because whether teachers want to admit it or not, or whether schools talk about it openly or not, parents are one of the most powerful forces shaping behavior systems in international schools. And we say that not to create a parent bashing episode.
We're parents.
Exactly.
We're not doing that. Yeah.
I mean, we're moms working and navigating international schools ourselves.
Yep. And it's not about blaming families out there. You know, it is an episode, though, about understanding influence, cultural, financial, emotional, and systemic. Okay. And how that influence shows up in behavior expectations, consequences, and classroom realities.
So if you've ever thought, oh, I'm afraid to report my student's bad behavior because his parents always say he's not like this at home and man, they ignore my concerns. You are not alone.
And if you're a parent listening, this episode isn't about pointing fingers. It's about helping everyone understand the pressures international families are also navigating.
So welcome to episode 3 in our 5-part mini-series on behavior in international schools. And we are firmly in the international files territory again, where we zoom out to understand the forces shaping what happens inside classrooms and unpacking the systems and logistics of international life, moving and working abroad.
So let's talk about parents, power, expectations, and why behavior systems succeed or fail depending on how schools handle this relationship. It's time to get connected. Let's start with a reality that feels uncomfortable for many educators to name.
International schools often sit at the intersection of education and service.
Families are paying tuition and sometimes a significant tuition, and that inevitably shifts the power dynamic.
In many international teacher conversations, you'll hear this phrased as parents see themselves as customers. This means that we as teachers, we're selling a product essentially.
And while we are framing that and that can feel dismissive, it's worth unpacking what's underneath it.
Remember that many international parents are dealing with a lot themselves. They may be relocating for work, navigating visas, housing, and language barriers, placing their children in unfamiliar systems they hope will transfer back seamlessly into their home countries. Oh, and they're paying a lot of money for stability and opportunity.
And that all creates anxiety. And anxiety often shows up as control.
So parents may push harder, question more, or advocate aggressively. Not because they're entitled, but because they're afraid of getting it wrong for their child. And after all, we get that, don't we?
We get that. The challenge is when schools don't clearly define whether parents are partners in learning or customers purchasing outcomes.
Right. When that boundary is unclear, behavior systems become negotiable.
Yeah. And when behavior is negotiable, consistency disappears and no one knows exactly what to expect.
Okay, now let's talk about culture, because this is one of the biggest reasons for behavior conversations and also why parents feel so confused in international schools.
Yeah, many international teachers come from shared Anglo education cultures, like from the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, where behavior is often seen as a shared responsibility between school and home. These behavior systems might be referred to as behavior management, positive behavior support, PBIS, which is positive behavioral interventions and support systems, or restorative practices, or pastoral care. Depending on the school, they have a different title.
Yes, and they encompass the same thing. In those systems, parents are usually expected to reinforce school consequences at home, discuss behavior incidents with their child, and co-manage expectations alongside teachers.
So when something happens at school, teachers naturally expect some sort of follow-up consequence at home. Like this can be conversations, consequences, accountability.
But here's where the international teaching flips the script. In many cultures around the world, families genuinely expect the school and teacher to be the primary authority for discipline, and the home to be the place of emotional safety and recovery.
This is common, for example, in many East Asian contexts, part of Northern and Central Europe, and in some Southeastern Asian and African education traditions.
Yeah, in these contexts, that's a hard word to say. Teachers are seen as moral and social authorities, not just instructors.
And parents may believe that stepping in would actually undermine the school's authority, not actually support it.
Right. So when teachers say, I spoke to the parent and nothing happened, what may actually be happening is trust, not neglect.
Yeah. So silence from parents doesn't necessarily mean disagreement. It can mean we trust the school to handle this.
Right. This expectation is well documented in intercultural educational research. Discipline roles are culturally assigned. They're not universal.
And when teachers from Anglo systems encounter this for the first time, it can feel like parents are disengaged or maybe avoiding responsibility.
Yeah, especially when those same teachers are used to parents emailing
or calling and following up and doing everything immediately, right?
Exactly. Yeah. But then on the flip side, parents from school as authority cultures can feel confused or even frustrated when schools keep asking them to intervene.
And they may think, like, isn't this the school's role? So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So both sides feel like the other isn't doing their job.
And without naming this difference explicitly, behavior conversations quickly become emotionally charged.
Teachers can feel unsupported, parents feel accused, and the child sits in the middle of the whole misunderstanding.
And this is why schools that function well don't assume shared expectations. They state them clearly.
Yes, they explain what role the school plays in discipline, what role the parents play, when collaboration between the two is expected, and how authority is handled.
And when we say state them clearly, we don't mean a vague sentence buried on page 37 of a handbook that nobody reads, though you should. We mean schools explicitly saying it like, at our school, behavior happens during the school day and is managed by the school. Teachers will apply consequences, support reflection, and follow up within our system.
And also just as clearly naming the parent role.
Yeah, they might say something like, we expect parents to follow up at home with a conversation, a reflection, or a consequence, and we'll collaborate with you as needed.
The key is that it's not left to interpretation. Teachers are not guessing. Parents are not wondering, am I supposed to step in here or stay out of this?
And children aren't getting mixed messages like the school says one thing, but home does another.
When roles are defined this clearly, behavior stops being a personal negotiation and starts being a shared understanding.
Let's talk about privilege carefully, honestly, and without caricature.
In online teacher spaces, you'll often see behavior problems blamed on entitled parents or spoiled kids. But we both think this is a really unfair generalization. Partially because at many international boarding schools, there are a high percentage of kids who are there on scholarship or who may be from disadvantaged backgrounds.
Yeah, which means this generalization does not hold up across the board. For example, in at least 2 boarding schools that I've worked at, I've known students where their whole extended families chipped in to raise the tuition fee to send this one child off to school in hopes of gaining future social mobility or opportunity for the whole family.
Wow. And when you factor those facts in, suddenly a parent concerned about a behavior issue runs much deeper than slapping a label on a family's lifestyle or income. Behavior is almost always rooted in unmet basic human needs. This is something Maslow's hierarchy of needs has highlighted for decades, like safety, belonging, autonomy, competence, and feeling valued, not entitlement.
However, when you look closer at this idea of students being spoiled or entitled, what teachers are actually often describing is this idea of access, not arrogance.
And it is true that many international families have access to more in terms of travel, experiences, etc. And they often come from professional environments where problems are solved quickly through negotiation, escalation, or influence. There's often an element of fairness and a win-win mentality in their professional settings.
And that mindset just doesn't switch off at the school gate.
Yeah, we've spent years talking to and working with teachers where professional working parents often expect rapid responses right away, generally in the evening on the day that something happened, so they don't have to deal with it at work tomorrow. Or maybe they expect individualized solutions, which often come with long emails describing their uniquely specific situation.
And perhaps they're looking for exceptions to the policy just this time, or even direct access to the leadership. They skip over the teacher step, they go right to the top, which can confuse and seem to ruffle internal feathers even more. This is really, really common.
It really is. And from the parent's perspective, this is advocacy for their child.
And from the school's perspective, this can quickly erode consistency.
I've experienced this on both sides as a teacher and as a leader. And let me tell you, it feels like undermining a school system, no matter how you look at it from a teacher's perspective.
Yep.
But a school system is only as strong as it's reinforced. I've worked in schools which held firm to the system and redirected a parent back to the teacher for a follow-up if they were trying to skip those steps. I've also worked in schools which allowed parents to jump over those steps and then doled out special processes just for that family or situation. In my opinion, this sent the message that if I skip the system, I'll get special treatment and a more powerful support faster.
Oh, and I have experienced this more times than I can count. And if you're an international school leader, stick around for our Teacher Toolbox episode 23, where we're going to dive deeper into how to create and ensure strong behavioral support systems to create fairness, safety, and understanding from all sides of a situation.
Yes. Research on fee paying and international school contexts highlights this tension clearly. When schools don't protect their systems, behavioral expectations become negotiable. And negotiation does tend to favor the most confident or well-connected families.
Unfortunately, it's true. Yeah. Teachers and middle leaders often feel this squeeze when consequences are applied unevenly. I've witnessed it myself, and that awareness that some families seem to be able to opt out of community expectations. For example, when internal deadlines within the IB-DP context aren't met by some students, and this impacts their ability to attend events or extracurricular activities, and their parents jump in and claim unfairness. What accountability are we teaching students, though, if we're going to let their parents encourage them and get the school to let them get away with this?
Such a good point. And that sounds exactly like the type of system skipping that I've experienced too. And it's crazy to think that even some school officials will skirt around the systems. I once worked at a school where a pretty extreme case of online bullying was found. We had a year 6 student who had written a ton of disgustingly horrible and terrible things to a year 4 student over multiple days. And the year 4 student came to seek support from adults at school, and the situation was it was immediately escalated due to the severity of the things that were written.
It sounds horrible and intense. What happened?
Yeah, well, however, let's say the year 6 student had cultivated the year 6 student's family, had cultivated a very strong relationship with the director over the multiple years that they had been with the school. And even though the school had a seemingly strong behavioral response system, almost the entire process was scrapped because of this friendly relationship. The year 6 student had to, drumroll, write an apology letter to the year 4 student.
Oh my gosh.
And that was it.
After all they've already written to the year 4 student.
Seriously.
That's horrible. Okay.
Yeah.
Like no exclusion, no follow-up, nothing.
Nothing. And the end of that story, the year 4 student left the school.
Oh my God.
And the school had also lost 3 other families after the gossip had spread. And, as professionally as I can say, all of the other leaders in the school deeply disagreed with this response. But at the end of the day, this is a stark reality of the international schools world. There isn't a federal or government overseer of fairness and equality. The systems that are created are only as strong as they are reinforced, like I said before.
And as strong as the leaders who enforce them.
Touche.
Yes.
Yep.
So over time, inconsistencies don't just create defiant children in your school. It creates staff uncertainty. You're not going to only get student attrition. You're going to get staff attrition from events like that. Kids quickly learn which rules are flexible and which aren't, which kids can get away with stuff and which kids can't.
It's so true. And behavior escalates not because children are worse, but because the boundaries are unclear. Another major pattern teachers consistently report is reactive communication from parents.
Oh, there are some schools that only contact parents when something is wrong.
Which means the first behavior conversation is already charged with fear. defensiveness, or shame.
Add to that first communication the layers of potential language barriers you're dealing with the parents, potential cultural differences, and unfamiliar school systems. And misunderstanding is almost guaranteed.
Absolutely. Teachers frequently say, I spent more time managing the parent reaction than actually addressing the behavior.
And that's not a failure of teaching. Again, it's a failure of systems. Yeah. I know that in 2 of my previous leadership posts that we always made it a goal as a staff team to send at least one positive message per student within the first 3 weeks of school. Now, I know you're sitting there and you're thinking, this is a challenging target when already I have like the start of year routines and the early team building. But if you make that first communication a positive one, something as simple as just wanted to reach out and introduce myself as Sally's teacher. I've noticed she's been showing great initiative and participates really well in English class. You must be proud of her effort. An authentic email like that will get Sally's parents on side before you ever have to reach out with a Sally talks far too much in class and distracts her peers, which really both emails are saying the same thing.
The teacher translation, the filter. Schools that struggle with class behavior issues, they tend to treat conversations around behavior as a form of damage control. It's reactive instead of proactive.
Schools that do this right, like treat it as education at the school. They explain how the behavior is taught, how expectations are reinforced, and how consequences fit into the school's learning.
Absolutely. There are so many aspects to this. There's how leaders train teachers on a school's behavior expectations, how the teachers consistently and frequently teach their students on these expectations. And then there's also how the parents are reminded again and again throughout the year from leaders, teachers, and sometimes other parents.
Yeah, those beginning of the year parent orientations with like the class teacher, the homeroom teacher, they've got to include this. But we'd say that this orientation time alone isn't enough. Like the entire profession of education is tightly woven in and out of teaching and responding to behaviors. Parents should be reminded of the school system 2, 3, 4 times a year. Like that's cyclical teaching for our students, for the parents too, you know, because situations will continue to pop up as the year goes on. And not all parents attend those orientations or meetings. We know it, or they don't read the school newsletter.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. And, you know, if the general population of the parent body is aware of how behavior is addressed, then another family can also be a source of information for a parent who is sharing their situation or their complaint or their question in the class group chat.
Oh, the group chats.
Yeah.
Yes.
Favorite place.
So research on parent-school partnerships consistently shows that proactive communication reduces conflict and increases trust, especially in culturally diverse communities.
And that proactive communication can translate beyond the formal information too. An entire school's community atmosphere can change when teachers take the time to chat with parents, even at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Trust me, small talk is the bane of my existence.
I don't know why. She's good at it.
I hate it.
She hates it.
I'm so uncomfortable. But I will admit, it is still one of the biggest influences I've personally experienced to positively impact the teacher-parent relationship. Small chats about your day, what their child did in your class, which restaurants in the area are good. These little moments build trust and positivity. So if or when a behavior concern arises, you already have this foundation of we're on the same side here that's built.
Yeah, and that's such a good point. You know, like it also gives more opportunity for those little behaviors to be discussed in like a lighter environment, you know? So parents can see a fuller scope of how their child is supported behaviorally.
And when parents understand why a school or a teacher is trying to address a behavior concern head on, it stops feeling like a personal attack or a blame game witch hunt, and instead becomes an opportunity for getting everyone on the same side of positive behavior correction.
Let's transition again and leave you with some hope and clarity in these dark times. Only on this day today. There are many international schools abroad who transparently share their behavior expectations and set community norms upfront exceptionally well. These schools have a strong sense of belonging and well-being for all of the community members. They have great parent ratings and teacher retention rates, and these are stable schools that really put a focus on community.
And teachers in those schools describe very different behavior climates. That does not mean that they never have incidents, but they do have clear systems in place.
Yep. And these strong schools onboard parents intentionally, not just administratively.
And by that, we mean onboarding that goes beyond signing forms and collecting documents. It can be a school walking parents through real scenarios. What happens if a child refuses to follow instructions? How peer conflict is handled, when parents are contacted and when they're not.
Parents leave knowing that the school will respond to an issue before it ever happens, they'll respond.
How they will respond
to an issue.
I knew what you were trying to say.
Thank you for that. Okay. I'd like to tell the future, but I don't have that gift just yet. They also explain their behavior philosophy clearly during admissions and orientation, not in abstract language, but in plain terms. And they follow this up by directing parents to go and read the full behavior policy, which is accessible and transparent on the school website.
Definitely. That's a really good point. In schools, they might say things like, at our school, behavior is taught like a curriculum. Mistakes are expected. Consequences are restorative, not punitive. And we prioritize consistency over individual negotiation. That way, families opt in with their eyes open and they revisit expectations after transitions and before and or after school holidays as well.
Which might look like a short little reminder sent home before a long winter break, or things explaining that routines will be retaught, behavior expectations will be reinforced, and support will be offered as children readjust. Or a quick parent session after a large intake of new families to reset shared common language and norms.
These schools, they don't assume new student and family alignment. They purposely build it as you integrate or reintegrate into the community. Parents are reminded, they're not corrected. Parents are supported, they're not going to be surprised. And teachers are not left to explain the system alone.
And this is where the strong leadership plays a crucial role at your school.
That's right. In schools that have strong pastoral and behavioral expectations, leaders back teachers publicly, they handle disagreements privately, and they protect consistency even under pressure.
And I have definitely seen the negative ramifications when these things do not happen. A parent comes in and complains to the head of school about a teacher's handling of a behavior situation to their class. And then the head meets with the parents, discusses with senior leadership, and then things eventually trickle down to the teacher. Sometimes through emails that copy in far too many people, or in a sort of gathering or fact-finding mission before the teacher even knows they're in discussion with leadership. This leaves teachers really feeling unprotected, burned, and sometimes unsafe to escalate any future issues.
But on the other hand, if a strong school leader directs the parents back to the teacher and properly helps the parents navigate the system correctly, parents generally report feeling supported and informed rather than surprised.
And teachers and students benefit from that predictability overall, which research consistently links to improved behavior and well-being.
Behavior stops being about control and starts being about belonging. Everyone knows what is expected of them, and there are no surprises when consequences for unacceptable behavior are given.
Oh, I love the consistency that a great leader and a well-informed group of colleagues can really provide for me. So let's weave these beautiful threads together.
Sure. Remember, parents, behavior in international schools, both positive and negative, does not exist in isolation.
Most definitely. It's shaped by converging cultures, previous mobility, prior systems, current leadership, and you, the global parents.
Naturally, parent behavior isn't the same as student behavior, especially as you aren't in the class doing the negotiation and seat time. But the two worlds are deeply connected as your home expectations inform your beginning frame of reference for your child as they attend school.
Yeah. And when parents aren't aligned or aren't an active part of building or maybe even understanding the school community, then behavior systems can really wobble.
And when schools or parents communicate defensively, conflicts escalate quickly on both sides.
Yep. Above all, when teachers are left to carry that cultural translation alone, staff burnout follows.
And the schools that thrive in creating harmony and positive, respectful, and caring communities are the ones that name these dynamics openly from the start. And then they go on to design systems that can actually understand, celebrate, and correctly address them in a consistent and reliable way.
Well, Brandi, we've reached the end and the wrap up of today's episode. But before we go, we want to leave you with this. Behavior challenges in international schools are rarely just about children, and they're rarely just about parents.
No, they are about the systems trying to hold together people from different cultures, languages, values, and expectations.
Yeah, and if this episode made you reflect on parent conversations that you've maybe had or ones that you've potentially been avoiding having, that means that you are standing at the intersection of a place of care, culture, and complexity.
If this episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear from you. What parent dynamics have shaped behavior in your setting, for better or for worse?
You can share your thoughts in the comments here or head over to connectedglobal.org to explore more conversations like this, find practical resources, and join our Connected Global community.
When you join the community, you'll receive quarterly insights from us, reflections, tools, and updates designed to support you wherever you are in your international journey.
And as always, you can book a consultation with us through the website. Whether you want to talk through behavior systems, parent communications, leadership dynamics, or your next move abroad, we're happy to chat.
In the next 2 episodes of this series, we're switching into teacher toolbox mode, and that's where we'll be providing both educators and leaders this time with practical behavior strategies, tools, and resources that you can use in whatever setting you're in.
So until then, may your conversations be clear,
your boundaries be well supported,
your systems be transparently connected
and international.
Gray on gray. Heartache on heartache.
Are you making up that song?
Blue on blue. It's called Blue on
Okay,
Blue.
I'm like, that's depressing. This is my Seattle cup. And I love it because it's like rain. Holy shit, that's so fast.
Thank you so much.
Did you see how that was?
It
like,
was.
Oh
I was
God.
like, she has to fix that at the break.
No, me too. Me not. Okay.